Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm talking about the second album from Calvin Harris, Ready for the Weekend. Okay, I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. I've gone on record with my opinion on this album a couple of times, but basically this is the good Calvin Harris album. This album is the one album of his that I'm okay with the idea of listening to all the way through after I'm done making this video. Even though it's admittedly unlikely I will. Because at its worst, it's mediocre, but still listenable. But its best moments are so good, I've actually kept them on my iPod this whole time, and listened to them on a fairly regular basis ever since first hearing the album in my freshman year in college. It's also kind of frustrating because I believe this is his least successful album, and I would be shocked if he were to make something like this again. It is what it is, though. I enjoy this album basically all the way through. Oh, and unironically as well. It's not like me saying that I enjoy David Guetta's One Love all the way through, which I kinda do, but most of that enjoyment comes from laughing at his failures. There are a handful of frustrating moments on this album, and I'd be lying if I said I thought it was great. But this is the one album of his that I would actually recommend to people. It's just some solid 80s influenced dance pop kind of stuff with enough variety and interesting moments to keep me invested. So let's just get right into it. I'll go down track by track. The first track, The Rain, is a track that I'm very on the fence over because it is almost a great song, kept back by a couple of bad elements that drive me nuts. This track starts out, and we get a freaking saxophone solo, which is incredible, and I would love it if more Calvin Harris songs tried this again. The beat drops into this hard-hitting electro thing that's kind of like I Created Disco if it had a budget, and I'm really getting into it, and then air horn. I mean, I don't think Calvin Harris could have predicted the rise of those stupid MLG memes back when this came out in 2009, and the fact that no one can ever use this sound effect unironically ever again at this point. But even after the fact, and the fact that it is excusable, it is still massively cringeworthy to listen to. If only he could take out that stupid sound effect, this track would have been a lot better. And the lyrics also have that one moment where they almost touch on I Created Disco territory, where he's talking about a girl and the sun bringing out her sex appeal, with specific emphasis placed on those last two words. Sounding like they were pitched down and stutter edited. And he does it twice! Like he talks about writing an imaginary love letter, talking mostly about her sex appeal. That's kinda gross, dude. At least your love letter's imaginary. I should mention, while I don't think the lyrics on this album are good per se, aside from him saying sex appeal in this track, I don't think they're awful or distracting like they were on I Created Disco. They're ignorable. I'm probably not going to discuss most of them very much in this video, because they don't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, aside from the air horn and sex appeal, The Rain is actually a good track. I like the chorus, these are the good times in your life. There's a cool breakdown after the second chorus, and Calvin Harris is much more tolerable as a frontman. His singing throughout this album, and for the rest of his career I might add, it's at least passable. This track is almost great. It's kind of frustrating. But then we get to the title track, and this is the best track that Calvin Harris has ever made. Sure, the lyrics are kinda dumb, and I don't really know what they mean, aside from Harris admitting that he has no idea what he's doing with this whole electronic music thing. Pushing knobs, pushing faders, but don't know what they do. But hey, we're all having a good time, right? We put on my shoes and we're ready for the weekend. But yeah, I love this track. It's more fast-paced than most of his stuff, nails down some good grooves all around, but it is the chorus where the track turns from good to great, featuring the vocals of soul singer Mary Pierce, who is totally living it up and sounds absolutely amazing. It's such a fun track. I don't really know what else to say about it besides I'm in the mood to listen to it a lot more often than it feels right to be. Yeah, love this track. And yeah, the rest of the tracks fluctuate between good and eh. It's Stars Come Out is a pretty good 80s track that actually sounds like he tried to create some disco, and it's pretty fun. I guess I'm getting some mild cameo vibes out of this kind of thing. You Used to Hold Me is a bit more EDM-ish and repetitive, but it's catchy, it's not bad. Blue I'm also on the fence over. It starts out with this acoustic guitar thing that I do not like. It sounds like he recorded the guitar and his voice at different times because he couldn't do both at once for whatever reason. That intro really rubs me the wrong way. It's like a fake white guy with acoustic guitar song. I don't even really like the real ones. But yeah, actually right after that it switches over to this bouncier beat that I actually enjoy quite a bit. It stands out as one of the stranger moments on the album, so I guess at the end it all evens out? And then there's I'm Not Alone, which used to be by far my least favorite on this album, since it's easily the moment on this album that most hinted at the direction he'd end up going on his next two albums. It's just big stadium house stuff with not much personality. But I kept listening to this album, and this track grew on me. Now it kind of reminds me of that Sunshine track that Guetta and Avicii did together that one time. Sure, it's like really simple, lowest common denominator type stuff, but the chord progression alone is satisfying enough to get away with it. So yeah, I can't act like this is an amazing track, but I will say I came out at the end enjoying it. Flashback, it's also kind of bland, but it's not bad either. The chorus with the vocals from Aya are pretty catchy. This is like a flashback. I'd rather listen to any of these than the stuff he'd come out with afterwards. Sure, this is like pretty dumb and simplistic, but it's at least kind of fun, I guess. Then we get to Worst Day. That's a much more mediocre track. I really don't care for that one much. And it's kind of hard for me to pin down why. I mean, I don't like the acoustic guitar stuff, but I like that it's fast-paced. It's kind of at least somewhat interesting. It's got a decent rap verse from Izza Kizza, but I also don't really like Harris's whining about this being the worst day of his life. Placing it over this up-tempo, kind of happy instrumental just makes it hard to feel sorry for him. Whatever, it's an okay track, I guess. Relax is the one track on here where I like the acoustic guitars, though. I'm not sure why this one works, but the other ones don't, but whatever. I mean, it's not a very relaxing track, but it's got a good hook, and it's catchy, and I like it. I don't have a lot to say about these tracks near the middle of the album, but yeah, I do enjoy that one anytime it comes up. Same with Limits, no acoustic guitars, and it's basically Stars Come Out Part 2. It's a little faster. It's catchy, it's cool, nothing really to add there. But right here near the end, we get a couple of tracks that really help make the album more interesting and more than just the less stupid sequel to I Created Disco. The last 4 tracks are all among my favorites. Oh, no, not all 4 of them. 3 of the 4. Yeah, La 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 is not that great. It's just more Stars Come Out stuff with a little annoying falsetto at the beginning and lyrics as smart as and consequential as that title implies. It's kind of another mediocre track that's instrumentally fine but one of the lowest points on the album. But the other 3 at the end are all very good. You got Burns Night, which is like an interlude of these slow-moving psychedelic guitars. And these Dr. Dre, The Chronic kind of whistling synths accompanying it. And it's all instrumental too. It may be short, but it brings some much needed extra flavor. And there's Dance With Me, which is UK rapper Dizzy Rascal featuring Calvin Harris and someone else called Chrome. And I don't know who Chrome is. I think he sings at some parts. I don't know. But yeah, this is also one of the best tracks that Calvin Harris has ever done. It starts out like it's going to be some kind of delicate soul song with these pianos and strings and toned-down rhythmic elements, but suddenly it switches over to the sounds of the rest of the album, including one heck of an excellent bass line. And Dizzy Rascal's rapping is lots of fun, and The soul instrumental stuff comes back for some occasional moments. I just really enjoy this track from front to back. And finally, the final track on the album is another interesting interlude that reminds me a little bit of deadmau5, A Moment to Myself. It starts out with a satisfying piano chord progression, and after every 10 chords, it piles on a new little electronic texture to accompany it. First, this little beeping metronome-like sound. Beep, beep, and a little reverby tambourine. Then some other beeping melodies. Boop, 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 and a buzzing bass, and then other cool high-pitched synths, and it just gets a little bigger each time. But there's also no drums anywhere at any point, making this track quite the subtle and strange, but very satisfying closer. This was easily my favorite track when I first heard the album, and I really wish Calvin Harris would make more stuff like this in general. Yeah, I have been off and on a lot of the tracks in between, but I've always kept, at the very least, the title track, Burns Night, Dance With Me, and Silicon Eater on my iPod. Or 5 Silicon Eater, and just listen to those 4 tracks as an EP, and I love all those. And even the stuff in between, none of it is bad. Nearly every listen I give this thing, my other favorites seem to change. I might end up hating I'm Not Alone again later, who knows. But I think my opinion on this album is stable enough to say I enjoy this entire thing, and it's actually worth people's time. And it kind of drives me crazy that this album is as good as it is, because it's kind of proof that Calvin Harris is capable of putting together an album that's varied and consistent enough to keep me interested the whole time. When I say I wish he would make more stuff like this, I don't mean like he needs to make more 80s type stuff. I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but I mean making albums with actual variety in them. There's no excuse for something like Funk Wave Bounces. Advertises having 10 tracks, but it has like 2 different ones at best, and one of them is just copy-pasted over and over. This is an example of him doing an album right. Adding these little weirder tracks in between for flavor and bringing in elements to make tracks stand out from each other. Variety makes all the difference. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know, obviously I don't love this album. It's unlikely I'm gonna come back to those lesser moments again now that I've gotten my thoughts out in the open, but I am going to come back to the better moments on here, I would say. Yeah, it's a good album overall, and I'm overall feeling a 7.5 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. They are awesome people. If you want to add yourself to that list or make me review something, there is a link to my Patreon in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.